Hello, welcome to the New Ulm Forum. My name is Ruth Ann Webster, and I'm the president of the New Ulm League of Women Voters. And today we're going to be talking about a relatively new happening in downtown New Ulm, the New Ulm Wellness Collective, which we refer to as the Well. Now, full disclosure here, I have been serving on the board of the Well. As you'll learn as we talk to Lori Mathewitz today, the Well has recently been formed as a nonprofit corporation, and it's achieved 501c3 status. So full disclosure, I sit on that board. Just a little bit about the Well so that you can think about what Lori is going to be talking about. The Well is located in downtown New Ulm. It's on 15 South Minnesota. And as a longtime New Ulm person, I would refer to that building as the Acre building, because that's how it was originally started. But I think much more recently, people are being drawn to that space because of the fall of the Bliss Wall.
Mural, yep.
I think that's right. So that's me, and that's the building. And now I'll introduce Lori Mathewitz, who's currently serving as the executive director of the Well. So Lori, why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
About me? Okay.
Yeah, about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Lori Mathewitz. My husband Brett and I moved back to New Ulm in 2007 for his job working for the family business, Mathewitz Construction. You may have recently found yourself stuck behind one of their trucks. I'm sorry, my condolences. It's construction season in Minnesota. In 2011, I graduated from St. Kate's in St. Paul with my master's degree in theology. And in the years leading up to my involvement at the Well, I was an adjunct professor there in the theology department, as well as living in New Ulm, operating my private practice, my private spiritual counseling practice here in New Ulm, and also raising our 3 daughters. So currently, I continue to have my private practice at the Well, as well as teaching meditation classes and co-hosting workshops and different self-care days with other practitioners and instructors at the Well. And of course, I serve as the executive director and helped in applying for that.
Just a little bit about yourself before we move on. What did you teach at St. Kate's?
I taught a couple different classes. I taught their Introduction to Theology course that every incoming freshman is required to take. And then I also taught their Christian social justice and Catholic social teaching courses. So I was well prepped for the nonprofit arena because of my social justice adjuncting.
And you refer to yourself as a spiritual counselor. Would you explain the difference between, or what is unique about spiritual counseling?
Right. So in contrast to being a mental health practitioner, which would be where I would refer someone who is maybe struggling with needing to diagnose, like diagnosis of depression or anxiety or something of that nature. I tend to work with people who are dealing more with just spiritual issues. So maybe they're working through the stages of grief after losing somebody, trying to reconcile maybe what they believe about the afterlife and what they were taught growing up. Any sort of religious or spiritual experiences. We do some things with maybe prayer, meditation, as I do our meditation classes and things like that. So I tend to do more of like the big questions, the meaning of life sort of stuff versus the sort of like day-to-day struggles that might go along with a formal mental health diagnosis.
And your office is at the Well.
It's at the Well, yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about how the Well got started.
Right. So back in probably 2016, I think it would have been, Julie Milkey, who is a doula and teaches some of our yoga classes at the Well, and Mindy Kimmel, who's a mental health therapist and currently serves as the president of our board, met up and just sort of talked with each other about, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if in New Ulm all of us who are kind of doing similar things could be in the same space under the same roof, because Mindy, going into the mental health world, would have loved to be able to maybe send some of her clients to a yoga class if she thought that would be helpful. And then they were like, oh, and Joan Lindholm, isn't she teaching classes over in this building? And oh, that Lori Mathowitz girl, she's downtown above the mall there. Like, what if we could all just be in the same space? And so it started off very organically as just a small group of us kind of looking for an office just space sharing sort of arrangement. And then slowly became this creation of this vision we had of providing space for qualified health and wellness practitioners and instructors to be able to come under one roof and support the health needs of our area through services and classes.
Now, because I'm a board member, I know that there is a lot going on at the well. So let's try to kind of divide it up into little chunks.
Okay.
What would be the things that would people be the most familiar with that go on at the well?
Sure. So maybe some of the more conventional self-care techniques would be things like massage, acupuncture. We have yoga classes. We have Tai Chi classes. We have a number of different support groups we've done over the years, grief support groups, prenatal and postnatal. People are probably pretty familiar with aromatherapy, essential oils. We have individual, family play therapy. We have a mental health counselor there who does those sorts of things. Those would probably be, I don't know, maybe what I would call conventional.
Well, and you used the term self-care. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by self-care, or what the well thinks about self-care?
Right. So in recent years, we've heard a lot about this mental health epidemic that we have in America, or movements like Make It Okay, where we're trying to destigmatize mental health and taking care of your emotional self being just as important as taking care of your physical self. But step 2, and what we're trying to do at the well, is the very practical, what does that look like? So we can destigmatize mental health and say, we need to make it okay all we want. Well, what does that mean, right? Because it doesn't necessarily mean sitting on a couch telling Lori Mathowitz about your problems all day long. We need the step 2. And so the step 2 now that we're trying to do at the well is casting this really wide net of offering our community a number of different integrative health services and practices that they can explore and decide what works best for them. So what works well for one person sitting and talking to me about some of their spiritual crises might not work for the person who really gets a lot out of doing energy medicine and having something like acupuncture and Reiki and movement classes through Tai Chi is just really good for their mood or their emotional state. So it's not this one-size-fits-all thing when we talk about mental health. We need to have a variety, and everybody has to have access to exploring.
And I think one of the unique things is that people don't necessarily need a physician or a medical profession to refer a person to the well. It's more, as you said, self-care.
Right. It's absolutely led by you and what you think would be best for yourself, because your belief in what's going to work versus what's not going to work is just as important as whether you believe that medication that you're just prescribed is going to do anything for you. It's why we talk about placebo effect, right? Placebo effect is a really, really powerful thing.
What are some of the unique things, the things that people might say, like, I think Reiki might be something that is unusual and might need a little bit of explanation.
Sure. So maybe some of the less conventional or more, we talk about Western medicine, we have Western medicine and that way of practicing self-care in America. So maybe some of the more Eastern or not conventional practices would be things like Reiki that are energy medicine. Cupping is another one that we're seeing more of because of the Olympics and seeing athletes with all the cupping marks on their backs.
What is cupping? Would you explain cupping?
Sure. So cupping is, I don't do cupping, but we have 3 practitioners at the well who do, is where, so you think of a massage and how we're kind of pushing into the tissue. So instead of pushing into the tissue to get it to relax, we're pulling up and bringing that blood flow to the surface of the skin instead. And so if you're experiencing any number of different things, it can be beneficial, again, for moving chi or energy throughout the body. So Reiki does that, cupping does that. Any traditional Chinese medicine practices would do that. We have sound therapy with singing bowls. So if you've seen those big, beautiful Himalayan singing bowls, we have those in classes where you can listen to them, as well as she will set them on your body and then ring the singing bowls as they sit on your body, and it sort of feels kind of like a massage from the inside out because of that vibration. It's incredibly relaxing. Cranial sacral would be another one. Maybe, what would some of the classes be that would be not as conventional? Well, even doulas, having a doula, having Julie Milky there to offer new moms birth support.
Yep. Explain what a doula is for those who may not be familiar with that term.
So a doula is someone who's there to support you on your birth journey, both as you approach your birth date as well as while you're giving birth. So, and that can take place in a number of different places now, right? So not everybody chooses to birth at a medical center. Some people want to try it at home. Some people go over to the St. Peter Birth Center, which is kind of like just a big, wonderful, cozy house to have your baby in that setting. It's very highly individualistic. There's no one size fits all.
Well, and a lot of the things that happen at the well, as you said, are individual, right? And so I'm going to use that term to sort of move into some of the other individuals that were at the genesis of the well. You talked about Mindy Kimmel and Julie Milky being, and you as being, let's all get together. Can you talk a little bit more about how you moved together as a group and came from where you started to where you are right now?
Right, because it was, we grew very, very quickly, and we didn't anticipate that. So in 2016, there were 6 of us starting out when Joan and Roger purchased the building that we would then all come to practice either our individual service or teach our class there. And then we kind of, at first we just were picking up instructors mostly, so people who were wanting to teach classes there. And then eventually we grew from, massage to acupuncture to having someone doing aromatherapy to, Kinsey Eckstein moving to town, coming out of Fairview in the more, medical model to wanting to do a private occupational therapy practice and do some life coaching. So very quickly over the course of those first 4 years from 2016 to 2020, we grew from 6 women to 18. So it was an exponentially quick growth, which was awesome, obviously. You want to grow because then instead of things being very individual, we very organically became this community of like-minded wellness professionals supporting each other, supporting our practices. But when you grow that fast, what happens then is you recognize the need for more oversight. You recognize the need for a little bit more organization. Eventually we needed some building renovations because our class sizes were getting too big. And then eventually the decision to move to a nonprofit model, incorporating as a 501c3 and appointing a board and myself as.
Talk about that process and the struggles, the joys, and the sorrows, and the work of going through something like that.
Right, because why become a nonprofit versus a for-profit, right? So, like I said, initially we were just kind of entering into this space sharing model and didn't really think we would need that oversight. But what kind of happened was, a couple events sort of planted those seeds early on, at least in my mind, that we should probably become a nonprofit. The first is just that the well was never meant to be something that made money in and of itself. It was really just what we named the community of people that were coming there to operate their private practices. So the second thing would have been probably in 2017, myself and Julie Milky kind of collaborated on this self-care day for some of the public health nurses. And as we were kind of going through the workshop with them, I posed the question to them and said, how do you see the well being able to fill some of the gaps in our community with the people that you're working with? And I remember one of the nurses kind of smiling at me very coyly and saying, the reality, Lori, is the people who need your services the most can't access them. And I remember leaving and kind of going, I know that's not what we are seeking to create here. I know we weren't seeking to create this exclusive little community of only certain people can have access to wellness. And in many ways in our country, wellness is kind of a luxury. It's a privilege. Not everybody has access. And so that kind of got my cranks turning. And then also as we were growing and as the years went by, other organizations were coming in, other nonprofits were coming in and writing grants to, bring some of the teachers in to do some wellness stuff for District 88, or, MRCI was bringing adults with disabilities in. And it kind of posed that question to myself where I was like, well, if we just did the work of becoming a 501c3, I could write those grants. I love writing. That would be fun. And then we could create our own programming. So if, our massage therapist really has a passion for working with veterans, and her dad was a veteran and she'd love to do chair massage, one day a month, we could write that grant and create that program ourselves. Or if our acupuncturist really wants to work with fertility and she wants to work with new moms, we could create that program ourselves rather than waiting for somebody else to come to us.
I think a lot of people know what MRCI is and what they do, but I think for this program, I'd appreciate it if you'd explain what sort of MRCI clients you came to the well, and what services you were able to provide.
Right. So a couple of years ago, back when the workshop in MRCI still existed, it has unfortunately since closed, but more so downsized, I guess. But we did a couple of different things. We were able to bring a group of 8 to 10 adults who would go there for day programs from their group homes throughout the day to the well for a couple hours to do different health and wellness programs. We did gratitude practices with them around Thanksgiving. We made gifts with them around Christmas time and talked about the importance of reaching out to others, whether it's their staff or their family or people at their group homes, other roommates that they had. And we did SelfCare kits where we sent them home with different things to encourage them to do things like pay attention to what you're putting in your body. But then also, in addition to bringing them to the well, a couple of our instructors were able to go out to them at MRCI and do chair exercise classes, do dancing, do sing-alongs, just do things to get them moving and increase mood and help with things like that. So when MRCI closed, it was one of our very favorite programs to do, and COVID unfolded and they were all kind of quarantined to their houses. As soon as things opened up again, I was immediately like, we got to reach out. We have to get them back to the well again, even if it's in small groups for a while, if we can divide it up. That was just really kind of a passion project for a few of us.
And you've been reaching out to other, I would say special needs, not special needs exactly, but other people in need, right?
Right. We've absolutely been trying to do that. And just honestly reaching out to other area nonprofits to say, how can we collaborate? How can we work together? Because, again, we see the need. We know things like health or wellness or, mental health are important. But just talking about it is important. We have to destigmatize it. That's step one, though. Step two is the practical. How do we live our way into this? What do we create? What are the specific expressed felt needs coming from our community? And I only know that if I go out and talk to people and ask them that question. What do you say? I might think everybody needs a massage, but if I go out to the Southern Minnesota Crisis Nursery, or if I go out to Be the Light, who's working with breast cancer supporters, and they say, no, actually they don't need any of those things. They just need to hang out with each other and be with one another and have community and fellowship. Well, I can offer that. We have beautiful spaces at the well that they can sit and they can be together and they can have just support group, talking to one another. Or it might be something that I can't even imagine. And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, we can do acupuncture with veterans. I didn't think that veterans would be interested in acupuncture. But until I do the work of going out and asking, I don't know.
And you have been going out, and how do you feel that the community has received the well or supported the well or encouraged the well in its work?
I would have never guessed in a million years that our little conservative German, introverted sort of community would have been so excited and so open to holistic health services and classes. That's just not something that I ever imagined. We have been so supported We have been asked to collaborate. I've gone to the school and done really cool like stress reduction and meditation classes or workshops during finals week. I've had them come to the well to talk to me about their struggles with health. I mean, like I said, some of our teachers have, worked with some of the schools, some of the educators in the school system. Trying to think of other places we've done things.
And you've talked to me a little bit about mindfulness training. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh gosh, mindfulness is like the slippery slope into every other practice. But mindfulness is really, it's not just a class that you can take. It's not just meditation. It's really a way of life. It's paying attention to yourself and your moods and what's going on inside of this present moment in a particular way. And until you're able to really be present inside of your own body and notice, wow, that light is really bright. I wonder what it makes me look like on camera. And then I notice all of these thoughts that are going through my mind in this present moment. I could never, ever in a million years imagine maybe coping with things like the stress of parenting or marriage or all those life events that come to pass if I didn't have that mindfulness practice in my own life. And for me, it comes through, not just, like I said, formal meditation, but also taking care to notice, gosh, my low back really hurts. I need to reach out to Lisa this week and maybe get in for a massage. But if you're not self-aware enough to recognize those thoughts or those signals that your body's sending you, why would you ever reach out to try to do something about it?
Now, I want to talk about the future that you see for the well, but I also want to talk about, I'm sure people who are listening to this are asking themselves, how do I find out more? How do I connect? How do I follow up, having heard Lori talk about these things? How do people get in touch with the well and what it has to offer?
Absolutely. So follow us on social media if you have Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, the best way to follow what's going on is our website, which is newulmwell.org. Specifically, I would recommend clicking on the Founders Drive. So our Founders Drive, our big sort of kickoff for our capital campaign, I guess we would call it, which we've named Life Well Lived. I love that. Is happening now. So we are doing the work of trying to fundraise and do some grant writing and create programs that we can eventually raise the funds to be able to purchase the space and to buy the building from our current landlords so that we can continue to grow, continue to exist, and hopefully expand, do some necessary renovations. And this is really important, and I would love to talk to anybody about it, so you can reach out to me as well on that website. But this is this really common nonprofit struggle we've kind of discovered over these last couple of years is nonprofits really struggle to sustain their mission because of that dependence on the generosity of donors or the success of fundraisers. This was especially evident during COVID when all of those things came to a halt and many nonprofits really struggled or closed because their mission was not sustainable without those. So what's unique about this model that we slowly lived our way into as we grew is we hope to ensure that basic operating expenses are covered already through the renting of office spaces and class spaces to the practitioners in the space. So what this means is that any fundraising revenue that comes in can be dedicated to scholarships, to expansion, to growing those support groups, and that's what donors want to give to. We want to give to the programs. If you have a passion for new moms or for whatever, we want you to be able to see your money go toward those things, but also have the confidence that this nonprofit isn't going anywhere. Their bottom line is already covered. And in our case, we had this luxury, thanks to the generosity of Roger and Joan early on in purchasing the building and then renting it to all of us as individuals, that having them as those angel investors shows us that, okay, the model works, it's sustainable, we're still here. And then secondarily, and I think this is really cool and important, we're able to achieve this secondary mission. So not only can we offer all of these unique services under one roof, but we're also achieving a secondary mission of making sure that entrepreneurial wellness professionals can come into our community and start and sustain their own business here in New Ulm and continue to stick around. We're not another place that's going to, be a blip on the radar and then go away, because we already have this community built, and we're already referring back and forth to each other and able to support each other in that way. So those two missions are not in conflict with one another, but rather they work really well hand in hand.
I'm going to pick up on the word angel, and I know this is a difficult, or rather an emotional topic, but you promised me you could handle it.
I can do it.
Why don't you explain to people about the Bliss Wall and who Bliss was and what she meant to the well and all the people that are involved in the well.
Right. So Bliss was one of our very first people. She was the first person to move into the space as a massage therapist.
Bliss Kalk.
Bliss Kalk, and unfortunately passed away from breast cancer. I told you I couldn't do it without crying a little.
That's okay.
In 2019. So because she taught all of us so many things, and set this beautiful example of just how to take care of yourself in a very holistic and natural way. And she was always teaching us new things. So we obviously had to remember her in some way. So if you come down to the well, you will see a big, beautiful mural on the side of our building that says, "Follow your bliss." And not a lot of people know this for some reason. I thought that we told everybody, but it seems that not a lot of people know. One of the things she was just really good at, for who knows why, was morel mushroom hunting. So if you look inside of the mural, if you look inside the peacock feathers and you really get close, you can have this lovely mindfulness practice, actually, of engaging in art in a mindful way. And if you pay attention, you can find morel mushrooms hidden inside of the mural wall. Our artist, Michael Cimino, just did a fabulous job of getting those hidden in there really well. I can't tell you how many are there, but I always enjoy when people walk up to me and tell me how many they found or how many they think are in the mural. So,
oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Is there anything else that we haven't covered? I know we sort of went over these notes a couple times, but I think we've checked everything off.
I think just maybe this summer, we have some cool things going on. We have a doctoral student from the University of Mary who's there right now, who's writing a program for her final project, creating a program for postpartum moms. And so she's kind of practicing under Kinsey Eckstein, our occupational therapist. So if you're a new mom or you know a new mom who'd be interested in being in a little postpartum moms and babies support group, do some yoga, do some other things, then definitely reach out. And then also we mentioned it briefly, but we were so blessed to receive a grant through the Lifelong Learning Foundation, through Community Ed, to continue to do that wellness programming with adults with developmental disabilities. So being able to have them come every Thursday and hang out with us is really, really cool. So I'm super happy to be able to have that at the well again. But other than that, just check out our website if you're interested in supporting us or contributing to Life Well Lived, our Founders Drive, so that we can take those next steps forward in our evolution and continuing to grow. I'd love to meet.
All right. And I think we're going to have some contact information put on the screen, but why don't you just articulate that?
Sure, absolutely. If you're watching on YouTube, look in the bio down below. If you're watching on television, then check us out at newulmwell.org.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Yes, good.